Good afternoon, everyone. Have you ever wondered why individuals commit crimes knowing they'll potentially be caught? Well, let's talk about it. My name is Isabella Saez, and this is Crime Explained. In order to understand crime, we need to know what definitions we're using. Today, we'll talk about crime through the legal definition, and the legal definition is an act or omission prohibited by law that violates public rights and is punishable by the state upon conviction. This requires actus reus and mens rea. Actus reus is a guilty act, and mens rea is a guilty mind. Some examples of crimes are assault, murder, shoplifting, embezzlement, burglary, arson, etc. Additionally, when explaining crime, we need to indicate what paradigms we're using. Paradigms are strategies of explanation that allow us to look at social behaviors through a structured framework and lens. Today, we'll be talking about the rational choice paradigm and the strain paradigm. To start us off, the rational choice paradigm attempts to explain human behavior with the costs and benefits. This paradigm assumes that every decision has a cost and a benefit, and individuals want to maximize the benefits and minimize costs because we're self-interested. These costs and benefits are always relative to a goal and assume that the individual making decisions is rational and well thought out. Essentially, this theory assumes that when crimes are committed, it is due to the realization that the benefit of committing the crime is higher than the chance of potential risks and costs. Some examples of this paradigm include Stark's theory of religious participation, although this one is not about crime, but religious markets, and Pape's theory of suicide terrorism. Next, we have our strain paradigm to help also explain and help criminologists and sociologists understand crime. According to the strain theory, crime occurs when individuals do not have legitimate means, for example, a job, education, etc., of achieving culturally valued goals, for example, money, high social status, and more. The strain paradigm assumes that this is due to blocked opportunities, economic inequality, like large gaps between the rich and the poor, and the presence of a negative stimuli, which is a change in state that leads to a physical or behavioral response. Essentially, the strain paradigm predicts that a failure to achieve positively valued goals due to systemic pressures leads to emotional outbursts and gateways for committing crime. Examples of this paradigm include Merton's theory of crime and Mesner-Rosenfeld's theory of institutionalized anomie. One conclusion that sociologists may form explaining crime through the lens of the rational choice theory is that individuals commit crimes when they believe the punishment will not be swift, it won't be severe, and or it won't be certain. Another explanation may be that if the benefit of the immediate reward outweighs the cost of the short-term risk or even potentially the long-term risk, then individuals are more likely to commit unlawful acts. A prediction one can make using the rational choice paradigm is that crime should increase when benefits are high and risks are low. But if risks are high compared to the reward and the crime was still committed, the theory would be deemed falsified. If one was looking at crime through the lens of the rational choice paradigm, one would assume that a bank with no security guards would be most vulnerable to victimization, because you're benefiting with a surplus of money and you don't need to worry about immediate authoritative retaliation. In another situation, using the rational choice paradigm, one can assume that when students are going to take an exam in a testing center with no direct supervision but only cameras, they will likely not cheat because the risk of being caught is being expelled, whereas the potential benefit would only be scoring a bit of a higher grade on an exam. When looking at crime and explanations of crime through the strain theory, one conclusion that sociologists may infer is that when individuals are frustrated by their lack of access to legitimate means, they will use deviant means to pursue goals. Another conclusion that one might gather from the strain theory is that those who experience social inequality are more likely to use deviant means to access culturally valued goals. A prediction researchers can make using the strain theory is that individuals that have better coping strategies and social support should offend less. But if emotional or physical strain does not correlate to the crime, then the theory is falsified. And some examples of deviant means being used to gain positively valued goals are hijacking a nice car in a parking lot to appear to have a higher social status after being shamed for looking poor, shoplifting baby formula to be able to continue providing for your family after job loss, and or selling drugs to increase income after the passing of a parental guardian. But why do two different paradigms and why do we have two different paradigms and how do they differ? The rational choice paradigm is a strategy of explanation that indicates individuals are rational beings that choose to commit certain crimes because it benefits them. They assume that crime happens when the benefits outweigh the costs, and they focus on opportunities to commit crime. Essentially, the rational choice paradigm insinuates that crime can be prevented by increasing risks and lowering rewards. Some strengths of the rational choice paradigm is that it drives policymaking. And how does it do this? It does this because it leads legislators to believe that if there's more security, harsher certain sentences to crimes, and less opportunity to commit crime, then crime will decrease. It also has explanatory power in planned opportunist crimes. And then some weaknesses that the rational choice paradigm has is that it neglects social influences because it assumes that people are only self-interested and that they are committing crimes for the benefit of themselves. Additionally, it neglects complexities in criminal decision making, and it cannot explain impulsivity because it assumes that all crimes are rationally thought out. The strain paradigm, on the other hand, is a strategy of explanation that indicates individuals are systematically forced into committing crimes because they have no other option. They assume that individuals are emotional, and frustration, stress, and anger leads to crime. And then they focus on the pressure caused by newfound strains, for example, a job loss, abuse, failure, and more. And this theory insinuates that crime can be prevented by reducing inequality and increasing social support. Some strengths of the strain theory is that it has explanatory power in impulsive emotional crimes. It's strong in explaining systematic injustices that lead to crime, and it's strong for juvenile delinquency prevention because it promotes the need for social support and the integration of emotional counseling during school hours that may be a protective factor later down the road. But some weaknesses to the strain paradigm is that it does not explain planned property or cyber crimes well, and it does not help with policy making because legislating impulsive behavior is difficult and may not always be admissible in court. But in conclusion, due to crime being complex and multifaceted, there are various theories that help criminologists and sociologists understand the phenomenon and when we can expect it to occur. The rational choice theory and the strain theory are two of multiple valid, testable paradigms that allow us to properly adjust regulatory policies and prevent crime altogether. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, but have their own explanatory powers that complement preventative techniques for the future. Continuing to develop such paradigms and improving the work left behind allows criminologists and sociologists as researchers to continue asking the right questions, lead us to admissible evidence, and look at society in ways that can help us understand specific behaviors and what they predict. Thank you so much. That will be all for me today.